I guess to either of you, maybe Chaim, just how do you envision just kind of setting up this spring training at Fenway? It's not obviously not the biggest facility out there, so what are your kind of plans for how spring training will be organized?
It's definitely a unique challenge. There are aspects of this that we're still putting finishing touches on as far as the entire spring training setup. I will say, as a newcomer, it's enabled me to get to know the building a lot better, learning how we can extend its capabilities to make sure that we do this in an efficient and safe fashion. It has and will continue to require creativity, flexibility. Fortunately, we have tremendous staff that possess those qualities in spades. And needless to say, there's going to be things once we start doing this, we're going to learn. And not everything is going to be perfect right off the bat, but we feel we are going to have a very good setup, and everybody's going to stay flexible, and we're going to get what we need to get done.
Thanks.
Hey guys, kind of with apologies for the kind of negative tone of this, but as there are so many positive tests for COVID-19 occurring around the majors, why is it a good idea for the league to be restarting right now at a time when we're finding out about all of these positive tests?
Yeah, I guess I can start, and then maybe to try and diffuse some of the negativity with a positive answer, and then I'll turn it over to Chaim. Appreciate your question, Alex. On a serious note, obviously we're going through an incredibly difficult time in our country. The virus has infected so many people and caused so much destruction and death around the world, and it's really been painful. Many people on this call have been personally impacted by it, and so it's the exact right question. And I'll tell you that my feeling is that baseball is exactly the right thing for the country right now to help us get back to some sense of normalcy. We need baseball in this country. It's the greatest game ever invented, and I couldn't imagine a summertime without baseball, and specifically baseball at Fenway Park. And hopefully it can provide some small sense of distraction and joy and fun and relief for people who have been locked into their homes and dealing with this really difficult situation. I think baseball has held a very special place in our society when we've come through very difficult times or lived during difficult times, which we are now. And it's important to note that thanks to Major League Baseball and the Major League Baseball Players Association, who have been working, as everyone on this call knows, for months, we have the most robust health and safety protocols in all of North American sports. That doesn't mean this won't come without risk. It will. We do anticipate having positive tests across the league, but we have protocols in place to deal with those positive tests when and if they arrive. So I think sports are such an important part of our country, and we need sports now in the country more than ever. I hope that it, again, will provide relief for people to get back to live sports, and it really comes at a time when we need that.
I guess I'll jump in if I could. Chaim, I have a two-part question for you. First part is, have you been in touch with most of the players? How have you stayed in communication with them? And do you expect full participation as of July 1st? And the second question would be, what are the contingencies going forward for the team as you guys get ready for July 23rd, 24th?
Yeah, well, throughout this time, I've tried to stay in touch with as many of our guys as possible without smothering them. I think our staff also has done a great job of that. We've had, from a medical standpoint, really daily monitoring of those guys. The field staff obviously has been in touch, and I've at various points, whether through text or phone call, had interaction with a lot of our guys, as had many other members of our front office. Many of whom obviously have very long-standing relationships with some of them. It's an unusual experience for everybody. I think it's been interesting just to see how different people have processed it, trying to stay ready, trying to keep that edge without knowing when you're getting started. Now we know, and that's a great thing. We are expecting full participation. I assume by that you mean that they will report.
Correct.
You're not talking
That's
about
exactly
injury.
right.
Yeah, we are expecting full participation. And what do you mean by contingencies?
Actually, I want to change what my second question was, and that was actually I wanted to ask you about picking up from where you left off, spring training 1.0, as it's so called. Is there any carryover decisions on players? How that might have changed over the last 3 months?
Yeah, it's a really good question. This is the first time any of us have done something like this. So, as much as we would love to think that, okay, we just hit pause and now we're going to come back with everything exactly as it was, there is going to be this process of reacclimation. We have to be realistic that a few months have gone by and we need to make sure we know where everybody's at, how everybody looks. So some of those assessments might change. I think big picture, we don't want to run away from anything that we thought as we were going through this in a much more normal fashion. Just because we are, we've missed this time, we don't want to change our assessment of anybody too drastically. But we do need to be realistic that we have to reassess where everybody's at and make sure that we're progressing everybody in the right way towards opening day.
Thanks, Chaim.
Question for Sam, just about the look of Fenway Park, Sam, and going through your safety and health protocols. What will it look like for the players, especially initially in this training camp that they're going to have? Will you use the visitors clubhouse? Will you use the stand? Will you use underneath? And would you possibly go over to a school like Boston College and use their fields as well?
Yeah, thanks, Rochi. There are some conversations going on with Boston College, and they've been terrific in even considering our request to try and go up there as part of spring training. We'll see if we can work through that. We've got a long-term relationship with Father Leahy and Coach Gambino and Boston College baseball. So we'll see. We don't have any final details there, but Fenway Park will be the primary site, obviously. And specifically to answer your question on the look and feel of Fenway, it will look and feel very different with that. First of all, having spring training there is going to be quite remarkable for people who've been around here a long time. Secondly, as we get into the games, you'll see things like an auxiliary bullpen, an auxiliary dugout. You may see or not see, as it were, players that have locker rooms in a different location, contemplating areas like the suites to keep guys separate and socially distance as much as possible, creating a batting cage in the concourse, for example, multiple dugout areas, just trying to do everything we can to promote health and safety, and we'll see how the final plans come together. But I think it will be a very different look and feel, but it will also be great to have people back at Fenway. We were some of us were together in person, socially distanced, of course, for the draft, and it was great to be back together with our teammates.
And Sam, just to follow that up, when phase 3 comes in from the governor of Massachusetts is doing so well, would there be the possibility as the season goes on of having fans come to games at Fenway?
Yeah, it's a good question, Rochi. I would say it would be a possibility, and if it were to become a reality, it would be because of the great work that state of Massachusetts and the city of Boston have done. Charlie Baker and Karen Polito and Marty Walsh and Catherine Burton and all of their teams. They've been under fire and under the gun day in, day out for 4 months. But you look at the data and the numbers, would suggest that all of their work and all of the great work of people that live around Boston and New England is starting to pay off as the data is improving here in our region. So if we do have any possibility of having fans in the stands as we return at some point, it would be because of that great work of our elected officials and all of the citizens who have respected the medical experts. So we are hopeful to have fans at some point. We need fans at Fenway Park. Our fans give us a competitive advantage. I can tell you there are clubs around Major League Baseball that are anticipating having fans in their ballparks. It's an incredibly important part of our business. It's an incredibly important part of our baseball operation. So we would like to get to that point, but I can't tell you when that would happen. But we are working through the protocols that would be required to pursue that opportunity someday in the future.
Thank you.
Do you anticipate scheduling any exhibition games?
Not sure yet. We're still, we're still working through a number of considerations. It's a possibility, but it's something we need to discuss further. And obviously we don't have a schedule yet either, so that will play into it as well. But it's a possibility.
And have you guys determined where your alternative site would be once the season starts for the players who are on that 60-man roster but not on the active roster?
Yeah, we are, again, this is something where we're still nailing down the exact logistics of how this will work, but we're planning to use Pawtucket, use McCoy Stadium, and we're very appreciative of all the help from folks over there, both, of course, with the Red Sox and also the folks in government to help make this happen. Still some things we need to nail down there, but that is the plan that we're working on.
Thanks.
Hi, how difficult will the evaluation process be without, more than a few exhibition games, if you have any at all? To, obviously you want to get guys healthy and build arm strength and all those, but in terms of roles and roster evaluations, how hard is that without the context of games?
I've probably spent more time thinking about it from a standpoint of readiness, which I think is potentially a greater challenge, that you really want those game reps, the game adrenaline. There's only so much you can simulate without a lot of outside competition, even when it's spring training, that I think could be a bigger hurdle. I think fortunately we have a very professional group that demonstrated that in a number of different ways in spring training. So I do think we'll be able to overcome that hurdle. I think that's probably a bigger hurdle. The evaluation is a factor, but I think sometimes when you try to evaluate spring training too much, it might lead you to make wrong decisions just as often as you might make correct ones from those evaluations. In our case, it is a bit of a shame because we had a number of players new to the organization that we were going to press into different roles and try to see how they fit in those roles. You guys saw that process was ongoing when we were shut down, but I think if we can make sure these guys are ready to play, I think that's the biggest concern.
Chaim, how much of a concern is injuries, being that you guys have such limited time and got so much time off, and what are you guys kind of doing to sort of combat that?
Yeah, this is something that I think we have seen even when you look at leagues that have come back to play so far this year in other countries, other sports. It's something that we've seen in the past in the history of this game when there have been shorter amounts of time to get ready, that it is a great concern. Our medical staff and strength and conditioning staff have spent a lot of time on this. That's part of why they try to be on top of the players so much from a distance, just in terms of making sure we know what they're doing, that we're staying on top of what they're doing and trying to help as much as we can to make sure that they're ready. There's only so much you can do remotely. I think that's a big part of what camp will be about, is determining where everybody's at and making sure we can set everybody up to succeed. I think by and large, when we have gotten those reports in from our medical staff, it's been impressive how guys have gotten after it, how they've tried to maintain that edge, These are really adverse circumstances to try to do that. It's not just that you're remote from a lot of your players. It's also that some of these players where they may not have facilities just because of what the virus has done to daily life and the ability to use certain facilities, that they may not have these facilities to rely on. I think given that, we're pretty optimistic about what we'll find when we have everybody back together, but there's no question it's going to be a challenge.
Chaim, to your knowledge, is everybody going to be ready to go physically? And I guess Colin McHugh is the one that jumps to mind.
Yeah, Colin's doing well. I don't want to put a timetable on it, but I think it's a possibility. He is doing well. He's working through basically a mound progression. He's off the mound now and basically progressing towards games, and he has tolerated everything really well. We've tried to build him up really responsibly. Don't know yet an exact timetable, but he is progressing really well.
This is a question for both of you. I'm kind of curious what this process has been like. Frustration. I know you're satisfied that you're able to get a season going, but what has this process been like? And are you worried there's a strain with the players moving forward after some tough negotiations with all of this?
Yeah. Well, it's. Look, I think. And I felt it. I think I'm guessing a lot of people on this call felt it when we finally, obviously got word that it's go time and we're going to have a season, regardless of what the past few months and the past number of weeks have held. The excitement to be able to get up there and play baseball again, I think dominated all of that. And I'm sensing that certainly from our staff and our players. You're talking about people that this is what they love to do. This is their life's work. And regardless of how we got here, I think the excitement of that, the joy of getting to go out there and compete, the chance to go and do what they've trained for their whole lives, I think has overtaken that. And we know, obviously, we all saw, what happened the past few months, and I know not all that goes away, but I think our players, one of the great things I've seen since coming to the organization, this is a place where historically, and I saw it as a rival for so many years, players who play here feel that the organization goes above and beyond to take care of them. That's something I took very seriously coming in here. It's something we're going to take very seriously, knowing these are different circumstances, to make sure our players feel that we're doing everything we possibly can to make this a great setup for them.
I just add to that, as very well said as usual, but I would just add to that we want to thank our fans for their patience. Thank our teammates in the front office. Look, we all work in baseball for one reason. We love baseball. And we were desperate to get baseball back on the field. Thankfully, the negotiations were happening way above our pay grade. And Major League Baseball and the Players Association obviously have a responsibility to their constituents. And we are just thrilled that we can get back on the field. The clubs, we were in contact, Chaim and I were in contact with our counterparts throughout the entire process. And we were hearing from people all across the game that we need to get back on the field. Sometimes you don't realize how much you miss something until it's taken away. And I'm sure all of us feel that way. So we're really fired up to get back to Fenway July 1 and get back to playing baseball later in July. And if you look at what's going on around the country, we're going to still be among the first sports back and playing games. And that's really what matters here. It's going to be an exciting schedule. We don't know what the schedule is going to be yet. We look forward to getting a copy of the schedule soon. Things are coming together in real time. But if you think about a 60-game season and the importance placed on every single game, it's going to be unlike anything we've ever seen. And so we're really looking forward to that moment. But we're glad the negotiations and discussions are over. And we look forward to putting all that behind us and getting going here.
I guess for other than that one minor leaguer at the beginning, have there been any more positive tests in the organization?
And we did have a couple weeks ago, we had a player who in his hometown was exposed and went and got tested and turned out to have been positive. But, he's been asymptomatic and that's resolving. And we've been fortunate in that regard that's the only other positive test that we've had.
Sam, if I could just go back to the idea of fans in the stands for 1 second. How do you justify that, given that all of the rancor for the last 3 months was about not playing in front of fans? How do you justify having them suddenly? Are the players okay with that? And what kind of message does that send to the fans that you spent all this time fighting over that, and then there could conceivably be fans anyway?
Yeah, well, again, I want to make sure I'm clear. I hope that we can have fans back in the stands because of the competitive advantage that it gives you to have fans, but I don't know that we will. But I also, it's probably a little bit of me personally just projecting my own hope that fans will be back at Fenway Park. I just anticipate it being extremely odd when we get going, playing Major League Baseball games in front of no fans and being a strange environment. So, but it is, I think, important that if we can do it, we do it in a safe and responsible way, following CDC guidelines with social distancing and cleanliness and face coverings and the like. So, we'll see how it goes. I think it's incredibly important that we start when it's safe to start to try and get back to some sense of normalcy. And I know for me, that has always been going to baseball games. And I think our fans want that. And ultimately, I think our players want that. I think we all want to start to try and get back to some sense of normalcy when it's safe and appropriate. And just to be clear, again, I don't have a timetable on that, but I personally hope it's as soon as humanly possible.